Chinese President Xi Jinping is set to arrive in the UK on Monday to begin a 4-day state visit at the invitation of Queen Elizabeth II. Now, Mr. Xi has been praising Britain for strengthening commercial ties with China. For more on this visit, let's turn to senior fellow at the Atlantic Council, Jamie Metzl. He's also a former executive vice president of the Asia Society. Jamie, great to have you on the program again. So this is truly a business trip with a really ambitious agenda. What's the expectation here in terms of the kind of deals that are going to come out of this trip? Because there's been a lot of buildup on both sides. You've heard from Chinese officials saying that they expect that an enormous, quote-unquote, enormous deal is going to be signed. And, of course, George Osborne saying that he wants to make China Britain's second biggest trade partner by 2025.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It is a business trip, and there will be very large deals that will be signed, and the biggest one will very likely be Chinese support for a nuclear facility in Essex, England, but it won't just be that. There'll be a lot of other deals announced. But the big issue is can it just be a business trip when there are so many strategic issues which China touches? And that, I think, is the crux of what is making a lot of people just a little bit nervous about this trip. Britain is doing a very good job of positioning itself as China's perhaps leading or second partner after Germany partner in Europe. But there are big issues with China around the world, in the South China Sea and cyber issues, and a real question that many people are asking, particularly here in the United States, is with Britain moving ever closer towards China, can Britain be counted upon as an ally and partner in addressing these bigger global strategic issues? Yeah,
let's talk a little bit more about that, because there has been criticism, as you say, with the British government being criticized for putting commercial interests ahead of others and essentially staying silent on other issues that the world sees as problems, especially when it comes to human rights in China and also its aggression that we've been seeing recently in the South China Sea. So how is the U.S. Viewing this, and not also mentioning that Britain was the first Western country to apply for membership to China's new AIIB, the Asian Infrastructure and Investment Bank, which was seen as a rival to the IMF and the World Bank, which the U.S. has been dominating? Yeah,
well, there's a lot of trepidation in the United States about how China is positioning itself in many parts of the world. I think many people here see the U.S. position on AIIB as a mistake. That, I think, there's more understanding for Britain and many other American allies who decided to go forward in joining China on AIIB. But more broadly, there are very big issues in the world, like you mentioned, South China Sea, cyber, and other things. And there's a real question about whether the United States is going to be standing alone, or perhaps with a relatively small number of Asian partners, in standing up to the bad things that China is doing, or whether there can be some kind of global coalition to both embrace China, which everybody needs to do. China is a critically important economy, but at the same time make sure that we have global standards and norms that help the world economy and the world run in a reasonable and safe and secure manner. And I think everybody wants to welcome China as a supportive participant in that order, and China kind of sometimes plays it in both ways. On one hand, it can act responsibly at times. Other times, it can be a very irresponsible international actor, especially in relation to its size and importance. So it's an open question what role Britain will play in helping guide China in a more collaborative manner.
And Jamie, when we look at China's behavior, I mean, the 30,000-foot view, I mean, I guess what's behind China, I guess, feeling more emboldened lately, especially with this aggression in the South China Sea? Is it seeing its growing influence? Is it pushing it to be more aggressive because of its growing influence around the world, and it's seeing itself as the rising world power?
Well, it definitely sees itself as a rising world power, and its economy has been growing. But now we're seeing something very curious in many ways. On one hand, China's economy is slowing, and people in China, people around the world are feeling that. And so there are two things that China is doing. On one hand, they recognize that they need to move from being a relatively low-end manufacturer and exporter to having a greater consumption economy and doing more global investment. And England and the UK, they think, can help them in that process. At the same time, because the legitimacy of China's government inside of China is based in many ways on their delivering economic growth, as the economic model begins to falter, China has become much more nationalistic, in part as a way of garnering domestic support. And so that's why we're seeing it in many ways a bifurcated policy where China is embracing international investment in many ways, but also being much, much more aggressive than they've been in recent years in places like the South China Sea.
Yeah, a lot of things to watch for as Xi Jinping
Absolutely.
visits Britain. I'm sure we'll be talking to you more as the trip gets underway. Jamie Metzl, fellow at the Atlantic Council, appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
My pleasure.